Hey there, and welcome to something very strange. This is something I wanted to do ever since I knew that there was a live stream that the Shiny Shoe developers were going to be putting together for the game they literally just announced. What is it, a week ago? It's called Inkbound. We know very little about it, but this game looks really, really cool so far. And from what little they've shown, I wanted to kind of give a first impressions just from the video they put up, right? Because they have a trailer that's out, which is the first thing on the screen here. And they also have this live stream that happened in my time. It was today. So I watched it. I thought about what I wanted to do here, and here I am putting it together. You're obviously seeing this much later in the future. I'm not exactly sure when you're seeing it, but anyway, I kind of wanted to just do a roguelike deck builder player who plays Monster Train a bunch, kind of quote unquote reacts video in a lot of ways, because I think that they've obviously built up a very strong community, Shiny Shoe, through their work on Monster Train. And I like to imagine how this might have interacted with what they build here in what they've called Inkbound. So this seems really cool. This is a very kind of strange cutting. What is it? How do I even want to say it? Like cutting room floor, I believe is what people call it. Where I'm just kind of improvising this video in a lot of ways. Normally, I plan these kinds of things out, but I want to just look at this, give my impressions of things like the UI and such, and how I imagine this might play, and yeah, we'll kind of see. So, the first things first, I don't want to steal too much of their thunder, but the first thing on the quote unquote agenda here is that they show the trailer again. So, I feel like my play here is I want to just mute the trailer. Behold, you get to see me on YouTube literally right here. So I'm going to mute the trailer and we're going to run it. The point of this is not necessarily for me to replay everything, right? I'm not just rebroadcasting their live stream. I want to kind of give my take on it. So you get to listen to my lovely voice, if it is indeed lovely, for as long as this video is. And we're going to mostly be looking at things like art style and things like what they're actually showing in the gameplay, because they do show some gameplay. They mention that it's very, very early and that things are changing, and that's cool. I mean, as you expect, right? They're talking about they have like early discussions and such going up on various social media. They have a new Discord server and such. So, pretty cool stuff. I definitely encourage people to get involved, make their voices heard. If you're watching this channel, you probably know who Shiny Shoe is. So, you know that I have a lot of respect for those folks, and hopefully I will be playing this game in whatever form it takes. So I think that'll be fun whenever it launches. I'm pretty excited for this. So let's go over the trailer here first, right? I'm just gonna start playing this and we get to see kind of how this looks. And my immediate thought is you get to see the art style here. So there's a portal of some kind here. You can very clearly tell the art style is similar to Monster Train. It has a kind of a very similar vibe. You've got very clearly three different sort of what I would call classes here being shown. Yeah, so you can kind of see it a little bit. I'm going to pause there. You see, keep revealing these three things. What can you actually tell here? Is this a dude with two shields? And that kind of looks like a guy with two shields. And then you've got a guy, this is a hammer. They talk about this more later. There's a skill called bonk. And then I don't really know what this is. Maybe it's like a backpack of some kind. He's got a cool hat. He looks very mage-like, so I imagine he's probably a spellcaster. These look very archetypal, right? So I'm thinking you've got a warrior, you've got an offensive warrior maybe, and a defensive warrior maybe, and then a spellcaster. Kind of an interesting dichotomy here with like a hammer and then a shield dude. Maybe the shield guy is actually the warrior, and then this hammer dude is actually like more like a cleric or something, a healer of some kind. I'm not really sure. It's kind of interesting though. It's not super standard. Automatically, you can also see kind of the movement here, and this trailer moves fast, so we'll focus more on the movement and environmental design and stuff later when it's less blurry from, they're moving in the trailer. But let's finish this out. Okay, so we see choosing some pathing. This looks very Slay the Spire-esque in a lot of ways. Just off the bat, you've got, let's see, what does this say? Battle, special encounter, shop, world NPC, event, loot, restore. I'm guessing that's like a campfire, maybe. So this seems very Slay the Spire-esque, which is nice. You get to see a little bit more of the interface here. I assume this must be 3 players of the same class or whatever that is. So, okay. And then I'm assuming the big boss is at the end and you start at the bottom. That seems like this is a pretty standard approach. So, okay, so you've got some camera stuff there. You get to see some attacks here. These are, I guess they're clicking things and choosing events. This is obviously trailer. That dude looks pretty cool. It's a big bird of some kind. You get to see some art. Sweet. And then you get to see the reveal of the name Inkbound. We'll go a little slower through. Yeah, all right. Sign up for the beta. Shiny shoe. By the way, new logo. Looking good, guys. I'm a big fan. It's got like this. Is that like an Xbox controller? It kind of looks like. It's a nice look, right? I'm a fan. I like that. And apparently, yeah, sign up for the beta here, right? So I guess if I've already submitted this, but I imagine if you go to this URL, maybe you find out, they have a cool website, actually. I've looked at it. I'll link a bunch of stuff below so that if you've never heard of whatever is going on here, maybe you can check it out. But yeah, you can sign up for the beta, and I guess at some point they'll contact you, question mark. I don't really know. But yeah, maybe some people get lucky and we get to see some actual sneak peek stuff. So cool. All right, let's continue on. I think this cuts through to the end of the trailer, if memory serves. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to skip around a bunch here. My goal is I'm not listening to these. We listen to them in the live stream. I don't want to just reblog their live stream here. My goal is to focus on the gameplay stuff. Right, so here we go. This is all what I care about. If I highly recommend actually watching the developer stream. It's on YouTube. I'll also link to that as well because I think that is itself very informative. They answer a lot of questions that I think is pretty cool. And you can see I argue with Cranberry a little bit in the chat. So it's pretty good times. But yeah, they provide a lot of information that I think is really, really cool and useful to know. They answer some questions and they leave some things to be determined, right? Which is, it totally tracks, right? The game is an early alpha. Things may change. They don't want to answer questions right now that potentially are no longer true in a week of development or something. So, yeah, fair enough. I'm going to avoid their chatter and mostly just look at what I'm seeing. So, immediately, the art looks snappy, actually. Obviously, unfortunately, they uploaded this in 720p. Otherwise, I would be viewing this in 1024, so you get 720p filtered through my recording and it's fine. But the important takeaway is watch their video because the art looks snappy. I like it. It's colorful. It has a lot of good environmental storytelling. You'll see what I mean. There's a lot of these purple things, whatever these are. That's pretty cool. And you can kind of immediately see some very Diablo-esque sort of user interface here, right? You get like health on the left, mana on the right. They explain this. It's definitely mana. You get some skills. They never click any of these other buttons down here, but I presume these are probably similar to the Monster Train buttons, settings and things like that. I'm not really sure what all of these would do. They don't really click them. It's fine. They've got the beta stuff, same as Monster Train. This is how you know it's a pre-alpha. It literally says it is. So there's that. And if you're not sure what the game is, I'll call attention to the stuff on the right. This is really interesting, and especially on Steam it's interesting because it's got some curious tags. It's online co-op roguelike, okay? So that's great. You're thinking, all right, so some co-op, we play a group together. At some point in here, they mention 4 players is what they're currently set at, which means that's pretty cool. And then it's an evolving fantasy world. don't really know what that means other than probably what we already saw, right? The map exploration happens, you go to a different area. I assume there are probably I'm thinking very Slay the Spire-esque sort of approaches here, right? Maybe you have acts, maybe there's only one map, I'm not actually sure. Deep customization, so that's cool. They show some things like quote-unquote cards, kind of like Monster Train, where you can pick things. It's got very Monster Train vibes to it, just from the way that you build up a run, which is cool. They show some items at some point in here too, which I suppose is a little more Diablo-esque in that sense, which is something that I immediately kind of compare it to. It has that isometric view. It has item pickups. The UI has, attack, mana, things like that. So you can see a lot of sort of similarities there. But the real trick is it's got this turn-based element to it, which is very curious. They haven't shown any multiplayer yet, but they have obviously confirmed the multiplayer. I think there's another stream coming up next week or something they maybe mentioned. I might be wrong there, don't quote me on that. But yeah, once they show multiplayer, I think I might do another one of these videos just to kind of explain my thoughts on that, because I'm really curious how this works, right? Because they tell it like it's turn-based. But the thing is, if it's turn-based and you have multiplayer, is everyone locked to the same step, right? That's a good question. I don't know. So does everyone have to take their quote-unquote turn at the same time? Or do you go out of order? And how do you coordinate that? It's going to be pretty tough, right? I'm very interested because it's not something I can really imagine another game to perfectly compare it to from what they've shown. And that's interesting to me. I don't know what to make of it. So, okay, so there's that. And so I'll run this a little bit. You can kind of see them moving around. They spend a little bit of time on this screen. They don't really do anything for a while, and then they eventually move on to something else. They do pop up a little window, right? I want to play that a bit. I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to do some YouTube controls here. Yeah, so they apparently, you can see they click up some kind of an emote wheel, which is cool. That's fun. So with you can see they do like a little cheer emote here, which is nice. And that's good. And then they have like apparently a funky step and some other emotes. So this is very MMO-esque, right? You have emotes that you can play and kind of mess around. They talk about a hub of some sort. We don't see it in this video, I'm pretty sure. I went through it a couple times and didn't see it. I'm interested in what that looks like, but I do think this could be pretty cool. They described it as some kind of, I don't want to misquote this. I'm not really sure what the hub is for, but I imagine they mentioned that you can kind of group up in the hub and then go on a quote unquote run with your party. I don't know how any of that interacts, so that's interesting. So we'll see kind of what happens there. I do want to skip ahead. You can see they talk about bonk. This is actually kind of funny. I don't think this is a reference to me saying bonk a lot, but a number of my viewers commented on this in Discord or to me directly and were like, hey, did they name bonk after you, since I say this in basically every single Monster Train video? I don't think so. I appreciate the thought, but it would be pretty cool. Maybe a Shiny Shoe developer will come out of the woodwork on this video and confirm or deny whether or not they named the bonk after me. That doesn't seem likely though, right? I'm not that cool. There, I have like 1,000 some odd subscribers. They're gonna name something after Northern Lion or whatever before me for sure. So. Let's see. I want to skip ahead a bit. I want to skip until they actually. Yeah, here we go. I want to skip ahead until they actually start interacting here. Now, note that this particular screen is much smaller than the screen we saw in the trailer. I'm not sure what that means, right? I don't know if that means that maybe the alpha, they reduced it for this playthrough. I don't know if that maybe means there's an additional level or something later on. Obviously, I imagine this is procedurally generated, right? Every run is different or something, but this is smaller, right? So that's interesting. So there's that. Let's see. They spend some time lingering on this. I do want to wait until they get to the point where they actually run around a little bit. Let's see. They pick stuff. Cool. They run around. So let's back up a second here. I want to show you this. Okay, they're running around. They interact with items, right? They blow stuff up. They pick things up. They got some healing there. I don't know what this stuff is. There's some kind of something popping up. I did notice you can see the number in the top left go up when they interact with that. I'm not sure if that's experience or currency or what. You can see a little bit more interacting here. The number goes up. There's a big one here, a lot of whatever that is. You also immediately can see kind of the inky, blotchy effects that they've got in the environment. I really love the colors here. So I'm a big fan of the art style. You can see they're doing something with items here. I guess they talk about these as healing potions. So, okay, you've got healing potions, I guess. And I don't really know. I guess you could maybe move one into another slot or replace here if your slots were filled. I think they just leave this on the ground if I remember correctly. But yeah, they do. So they kind of just abandon it. It's fine. They blow up some stuff. We're about to get into a combat, which is cool. Hold up, by the way. Whoa. We're going to back up because I want to show you this. Because I love this in video games. Hold up. They hover over it. Yeah. Fishing pole. Catch the fish and eat the fish. Level 1 common plot device. They comment on the plot device thing later as just, I guess, something lore related, maybe? Question mark? I don't really know. But they said they were quote unquote exploring it, I believe it was. So I don't know what that means. But you can fish, right? Obviously, if you have a fishing pole, you can fish. This has very Hades vibes to me, where you just kind of are doing your run and then suddenly you bust out the fishing rod and go fishing a little bit. That seems hype. I'm all for that. It's an item, which is kind of an interesting choice. I don't really know if that's what that means. Maybe you can get different fishing poles or something. I assume you must be able to. Who knows? They don't really talk about this other than to say that it exists. So that's cool. You can see this ring. I'll explain what this is because I saw it in here. It essentially is the boundary of getting into a combat, it looks like. Watch when they do this. So they'll run up here. This fellow Avarim is what he introduced himself as. I think he's been pretty active on the Discord server if you're interested in kind of following along or talking about the game in its current state. But he's basically explaining that this ring is when the combat starts, and you get a little reposition timer, which is really interesting. I'm curious to see if I like run in and out what that does. Does that work a specific way, or how does that behave? I don't know. They didn't really show it, I don't think. But I'll stop messing with the camera and hopefully we can see a little bit of this. Let's see, I think they run in actually. Hold up. When do they run in? Okay, I will skip ahead until they actually run in. They're explaining some stuff here. Okay, here we go. Right. They're going to charge in now. Right? You charging in, friends? No? Okay, they did. So here's the deal. Let's jump ahead a little bit. I want them to run in. Cool. Okay. So we wait like 4 seconds and we'll see this. Watch what happens. Timer. Battle begins in. So you get to set yourself up, it looks like. And then enemies take their first turn and run in. This is pretty cool. They're explaining a little bit about what you can do. Apparently this ring lets you move around, which is pretty neat. So you get some kind of repositioning here. They explain that this big dude that's jubilant about back here threw this bomb, and they explain that these dudes can like run up and attack. Now, you can obviously use skills here, which is cool. Let's see, do they show this? Yeah, click the button, please. I'm going to skip ahead until they actually do this. Oh, here we go, buffering again. Cool, all right, we're moving. Please, hit something. All right, they're talking about a lot of stuff. You can I'll explain what they're talking about real quick, just for thoughts. You can apparently see how many actions you have left. You get 3 actions in a quote-unquote round, whatever that means. Over here, you can see the numbers of pips left on this edge of this button here. And that tells you have 3 actions. You can move around inside this ring per action, which is pretty cool. And these are all their abilities. Health, mana is charged up here, so that's cool. Let's see. I think they're going to click bonk here, which I'm really looking forward to whenever they decide to do that. So we're just kind of skipping ahead until such time that that happens. All right, whatever. I think they're continuing to explain things. I like the little goops coming up on the side, by the way. I imagine that just indicates the edge of the arena, but it's pretty cool to see that. I like that effect. Okay, cool. They did this. So I want to back up. Okay. They're highlighting bonk and they're aiming it. So it's a skill shot, which is really interesting to me. Now you watch this, they let go, they hit all three of those dudes, and some things pop out. Apparently, these are extra mana orbs or something. So I like that because, from what I understand, this sounds like an interactive way of interact. I said interacting twice, but basically, you interact with the environment to gain a benefit. They said that the mana overstacks over here. I don't know if that's something that they plan on keeping through the game all the way through. That might just be something they're testing, but that sounds cool, right? Because it means you could store extra mana by positioning yourself correctly. This is a cool little scheme of interaction here. I like this a lot because you're interacting with the terrain. You want to end your turn outside this bomb so you don't get blasted. So I've still got two more actions here, but maybe they grab some of these mana things or whatnot. They get through this a little bit. Let's see, they'll move around, do some stuff. I think they actually show a teleport skill here. So that's the second skill they've highlighted. You can see this big AoE ring. They click and you shoop over there. Great. Now, interestingly, you may not be able to see this very well. I'm going to point out, though, they mention that this means that they got threatened by a lot of stuff. And they show that if you hover over them, you can see their threat range. So I noticed while this was going on that the little flashes around these folks are purple or red. And it maybe it's hard to see in 720p here, but it looks like when they become red, they're aggroed aggroed to the extent that they're going to hit you. Whereas if they're purple, they're out of range, they're not going to hit you. So maybe that teleport was quote unquote a bad play because they might get hit. Instead, what they'll do is they'll activate shield wall here, which gives them a ton of defense. They tank all these hits and are okay because the overshield gave them barrier. Very Halo-esque kind of shield it looks like. You get it for a turn, it goes away, and you build it up. Maybe more like Slay the Spire blocks or something like that. So pretty cool. That looks good to me. Let's see. I want to see. I think they just bonk everything to death. Yeah, they show a respawn mechanic here, so you can see that after they've killed enough enemies here. I guess they want to keep the combat threatening, so they add enemies. Now, what I'm interested in, they've been focusing on these little guys. If I kill the big guy, does that end the combat? Is he the main enemy? And if so, maybe that creates some kind of interesting mechanic of push and pull where I'm trying to push to the boss and take him out. And if I fail to, then not a big deal. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't think they ever explain that either. So maybe that's something they'll show off later. I'd be interested in how that works. I think they let this spawn mechanic go off. You can see, by the way, the cooldowns that they show, as well as there are mana costs up on above these skills. So like this skill costs 3, but he has 2, so it doesn't work. I think they're just gonna bonk things. They kill actually, wait a second, they kill the guy here. Okay, no, the killing the big guy actually doesn't end the combat. So I guess you do have to just clear all the waves. So, okay, that answers that question. They kind of continue on this combat for a bit. I don't think this shows anything else particularly interesting other than they use some of the skills. They just bonk enemies. It's fine. We're going to skip around a little bit. They teleport out of the bomb. Sure, they get some mana. And then I think they just punch this dude to death, which should end the combat. If memory serves, I think they linger for a bit to talk a little bit about some stuff. Sure. Yeah, okay, so they finish this, they bonk. Now, immediately, this thing spawns. Now, they're going to click on this, right, which I think is exciting. You'll see why this looks so much like Monster Train to me, which is pretty exciting. So click it, cool. Look at this. Immediately, you see a very similar sort of mechanic to Monster Train card drafts, which I like. This shows what do they have? Brand, deal 10 damage to a single enemy and add branded, whatever that is. Earth and Tremors, deal 10 damage to all enemies. Now, I don't know, that sounds strong. I don't know if 10 is good, but that seems cool. Stone Barrage, hurl a volley of 4 rocks toward an enemy, each dealing 15. So, okay, you've got a 60 damage nuke over here, or 10 to everyone. All right, fair enough. That could be really good. This brand, maybe this is like an AoE thing, or maybe it makes them take more damage or something. I don't know. But they don't click on brand. They end up taking Earth and Tremors because Twitch chat convinces them to do so. And then they click it in the next combat, which is cool. It's a pretty cool ability. But maybe they'll show us what brand means later. So, okay. We'll continue. They end up clicking on Earth and Tremors here. They make a selection on the map generation. It's fine. As I buffer, behold the power of YouTube. You can see them interact with some more items. Nothing particularly crazy here. They do show an equipment item here, right? Yeah, look at this. So, okay. They click this pretty quickly, but let's look at this. It's a common vestige, verdant sprout. It looks like a ring, I suppose. Plus 2 HP regen after combat, plus 5 max HP. I mean, that seems good, right? Our HP max right now is 10, so this is a 50% increase on a common item. I don't know if those commons mean anything. I don't think we see anything higher in this video, but maybe there are higher rarity things. I assume there must be if they have the common rarity at all. So who knows? There's also levels on there. I don't know if what that means. Maybe there's higher level stuff too. So maybe there's a mix of level and rarity or something like that. Regenerating HP after combat, and then max HP seems good, right? I mean, obviously it's hard for me to measure balance here because this game is still in pre-alpha, but based on simply that first combat, this seems fine, right? They're going to click it pretty quickly, and then it's going to just pop into their, I guess, inventory. They say they don't want to show the UI for that. I assume it might be in like, pre-alpha state or whatever, which is fine, but it'd be kind of interesting to know what kind of items are even available. Is that like a relic, right? Did they just pick up a relic? Hard to say. Also, it's hard to point. I want to point out in the top left. I'm going to wait until the UI goes away. There's this text up here, 5 out of 10 turns until next blight. I don't know what that means. I don't think they talk about that, but I'm interested in that. Is that like game difficulty? Maybe. Maybe it punishes being slow, right? It punishes stalling, possibly. It might, right? Especially if all enemies use skill shots or something, too. So that might be interesting. I hope they talk about that at some point. I'd be interested to know what they have in mind for that. All right, they start another combat here. This is some kind of a mini boss or something. You can see it has a name. It seems important. It's got some things floating above it. They mention these might be buffs or something. I don't think they ever show us what these are, but that's okay. I am just going to wait until they click their aftershock ability because it looks cool. Yep, skip around a little bit. It's fine. They spend a lot of time talking here, which is okay. There's a teleport. They do a bonk. Good bonk. You see him taking some hits. It's fine. He gets some mana. And let's see. I think they use Aftershock here, or whatever that skill was called, because people were asking for it. Or maybe not. Okay, maybe they already used it. Let me back up. I want to show you what that does. Or I think they definitely show that. I'm pretty confident, right? Let's see. I think they had to. Yeah. Here we go. So they're going to click it, right? Yeah. Okay. So they go and they activate this ability. Hiya. Cool, right? That looks cool. It hits everything. This dude looks very tanky. He just took 10 damage and has taken virtually anything. So this is probably a very scary combat that they're not prepared for strategically. But yeah. So I think the video kind of just goes into Q&A from here. Yeah, I don't want to dwell too much on the Q&A parts of it. So I'm going strictly based on what they're showing. But so far, I'm seeing a fusion of something like a Diablo with Hades with Monster Train, and Obviously, there's some Slay the Spire elements in there as well, some historical emphasis there. So that seems cool, right? There's a turn based element to this. They've emphasized that it is playable solo and should be good solo, so I'm hyped for that. Maybe it'll make some cool YouTube content. I'm definitely going to be covering this more as they kind of release more information. I'm hopeful that there's some cool stuff there. So I think that's kind of everything I was going to talk about here. I realize I've talked for half an hour. I really just kind of wanted to review what they've shown, and hopefully there's some cool stuff there. I don't have any super secret insider info, sadly, but if they post other stuff, you can hit me up on Discord and I'll talk about it. So that's pretty cool. Otherwise, I guess we're waiting for the next video on this, right? I'm looking forward to, I don't know, seeing what we learn, right? It sounds cool from what I'm seeing so far. And I'm hopeful that it'll be fun. So yeah, I'm gonna be following it. Hopefully you do too. I think the Shiny Shoe devs have done a great job with Monster Train, and I think that obviously, it's not a perfect game, but that's okay. Virtually nothing is. And I have like 2,000 plus hours in it, so it's great. And I'm hopeful that whatever this comes out to be ends up being similar. Maybe a little different, obviously, but something I stick with for a while. That would be pretty cool. So, yeah, I think that's everything I'm going to cover. So, hey, thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate your time. As always, you can give the video a like or a dislike if you want. I'm going to put a lot of links in the bottom for people to follow along with if they want to learn more about this Inkbound game. And you can always feel free to like or dislike the video if you want. You can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. I will do more videos like this. And ultimately, hey, stay tuned for what's next. Take care, folks.